My mother-in-law, Martha, was completely fixated on the idea of traveling to Myanmar to purchase a jade bracelet. She had become convinced, after hearing a story from a friend, that wearing a jade bracelet from that specific region would grant the wearer an incredible streak of good fortune, the kind that could make you wealthy overnight. The whole thing sounded incredibly suspicious to me, and I did my best to dissuade her from such a foolish trip. I reminded her that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Even if you did somehow get rich from it, I argued, you'd surely have to pay a price in some other unforeseen way. My words seemed to frighten her, and she reluctantly agreed not to go. However, my husband's Aunt Susan, along with her family, found the allure of instant wealth too powerful to resist. They decided to go to Myanmar in my mother-in-law's place. Predictably, soon after their return, my Aunt Susan's family began to experience a run of almost unbelievable luck. It started when they won $50 million in the lottery. With their newfound wealth, they immediately purchased a luxury car and a sprawling mansion. Her daughter, who had previously been unremarkable, managed to marry a young man from a wealthy family, a trust fund kid with a vast inheritance. Her son used a portion of the winnings to launch his own company, which, a year later, led to him meeting the daughter of an even wealthier family. After the two families were united by marriage, his company's success soared to an entirely new level. When my mother-in-law returned home from attending my cousin's extravagant wedding, she was simmering with a rage so intense that she shoved me down the stairs. "This is all your fault," she screamed, her voice filled with venom. "If it wasn't for you, we would be the ones striking it rich right now. You're a complete lost cause, and you want to drag us all down with you. The chance to go to Myanmar is gone, so you can just go die." What she and the rest of my family didn't know was that my aunt's family was already drowning in regret, and that the cursed bracelet refused to come off. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. "Honey?" my mother-in-law said, nudging my arm. "I ran into an old friend today, and she gave me something. Look, don't you think this jade is worth a bit of money?" A cold, smooth object was pressed into my hand. I looked down and saw a small, intricately carved piece of jade. Martha caressed it with a loving expression. "She said you have to go to Myanmar to buy this special kind of jade," she explained, her voice full of excitement. "She has connections. Once you get one, you just wait for the good times to roll in." As she chattered on and on, the memories of my previous life flooded back into my mind with terrifying clarity. In my last life, it was on this exact day that my mother-in-law had gone to a seminar for a new health supplement. It was at the entrance to that event that she had encountered an elderly woman. The woman was impeccably dressed. Everything she wore, from her clothes to her jewelry, was clearly expensive and of high quality. My mother-in-law, always one to be impressed by wealth, couldn't help but strike up a conversation. The woman told her a fantastical story. She claimed she used to be a retired factory worker living modestly on a $2,000 monthly pension. But ever since she had taken a trip to Myanmar and bought a special jade bracelet, her fortunes had completely turned around. First, she won $10 million in the lottery. Her daughter, she said, was a savvy investor and used that money to build an even greater fortune, purchasing 5 mansions in the city's most luxurious neighborhood, not to mention a fleet of high-end cars. She spoke in hushed, confidential tones, telling my mother-in-law that she had introduced a few other friends to this opportunity, and now they were all living lavish, comfortable lives. She claimed she was only sharing this secret with Martha because she had a kind face. Then, the woman gave my mother-in-law the piece of jade. "This is a leftover piece from a cut I had done earlier," she explained. "Take it home and show your family. A bracelet made from jade of this quality is priceless. If I weren't so wealthy myself, I wouldn't dream of giving it to you." The more I listened to Martha retell the story, the more I felt a sense of unease. We weren't related to this woman in any way. Why would such a golden opportunity simply fall into our laps? Even if the bracelet was as magical as she claimed, I knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. There would undoubtedly be a hidden price to pay. I quickly urged her not to go, showing her recent news articles about travel scams where people go to Southeast Asia and are never heard from again. "She's using a piece of rock to lure you over there," I warned. "You could get your organs harvested the second you step off the plane." My mother-in-law was frightened by that possibility. Later, while chatting with her sister, my husband's Aunt Susan, she recounted the whole story. My aunt was incredibly tempted by the prospect of easy money. She went to the health supplement store behind my mother in law's back, and 10 days later, she was on a flight to Myanmar. When she returned, she was like a completely different person. She was draped in jewels, a stark contrast to the woman who used to meticulously pinch every penny. Even the lottery tickets she bought on a whim became consistent winners, and a ticket she actually put some thought into won her a staggering $50 million. Her husband, who had been a simple security guard, was suddenly promoted to head of security after casually saving the CEO's dog. Her daughter, a perfectly average office clerk, was transferred to the CEO's office after accidentally bumping into the company heir. A year later, with a mansion as part of her dowry, she married the heir, fulfilling a lifelong dream. Her son used the $50 million from the lottery as seed money to start a company, which flourished. Through his business, he met the daughter of a wealthy business partner, and the two families merged through their marriage, propelling both companies to new heights. The day my cousin got married, my mother-in-law came home with red, puffy eyes. Seeing that no one else was around, she shoved me down the stairs. "This is all your fault," she shrieked. "If it weren't for you, we'd be the ones striking it rich right now. You're a lost cause, and you want to drag us all down with you. The chance to go to Myanmar is gone now, so you can just go die." I wasn't prepared for the attack. I tumbled down the stairs, hit my head, and died right there on the floor. My soul, however, was filled with so much resentment that it lingered long after my death. I followed my aunt's family and saw that their lives were not as perfect as they appeared on the surface. They had been regretting their decision for a long time. The wealthy heir her daughter married was actually cheating on her with a dozen other women. Every time he came home drunk, he would either beat her or scream at her. By then, my aunt's family could no longer win the lottery, and to keep up appearances, the mansion they had given as a dowry was in the heir's name. If their daughter divorced him, they would lose everything, so they had no choice but to endure the abuse. Their son wasn't doing well either. He had no real talent for business, and his company was going downhill, propped up entirely by his in-laws. As a result, his wife's family treated him as if he were the one who had married into their family, subjecting him to constant humiliation. My aunt and uncle started having bad luck, too. They would get hit by cars or choke on water. Gradually, they realized something was terribly wrong and wanted to take the bracelet off, but it was as if it were embedded in my aunt's flesh. Even a saw couldn't cut it. She tried to find the old woman who sold it to her, but it was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. In the end, their daughter was beaten to death by her husband in a drunken rage. Their son, after a particularly humiliating outburst from his father-in-law, seemed to snap. He grabbed a kitchen knife and butchered his wife's entire family. After their children died, my aunt and uncle were plagued by nightmares, constantly hearing ghostly wails. By the time the neighbors noticed something was wrong, they were found dead in their living room, with blood streaming from their eyes, noses, and ears, their faces frozen in expressions of pure terror. Thinking about it all, a deep hatred churned inside me, but at the same time, a flicker of dark anticipation grew. My mother-in-law glanced at me from across the table. "You're not saying anything. Does that mean you don't want me to go?" "I'm on the fence about it myself. I've never been so far away. If something happened, I wouldn't know who to call." I sneered inwardly. It was ironic. With no one trying to stop her this time, she was the one hesitating. I shook my head, feigning disappointment. "Mom, this is such an amazing opportunity. What is there to hesitate about? Didn't Dad run up a few $100,000 in debt? If this is as good as she says, we could be set for life." Hearing this, she became even more hesitant. "You have a point, but I don't even know that old lady. She was so friendly, it makes me think it's a scam. Do you think I should go ask her about it again?" "But she said this is the last chance to go to Myanmar. They're cracking down later, so you won't be able to go even if you want to." Oh dear. The more she talked, the more conflicted she became, sighing heavily by the end. I made a suggestion. "Why don't you talk it over with Dad? He's decisive and he's a man. I'm sure he'll know what to do." My mother-in-law had always deferred to her husband, my father-in-law Frank, who was drowning in gambling debts. Even though his creditors had agreed to a payment plan, I knew that if he heard about an opportunity like this, he would push Martha to go without a second thought. That night, my mother-in-law told my father-in-law about the jade bracelet. His eyes lit up instantly, and he immediately urged her, "You have to go. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. It's like in the casinos when someone suddenly gets a hot hand. You're the chosen one." He suddenly grabbed her hand, his voice becoming persuasive. "Besides, honey, we haven't been abroad in years. Just think of it as a vacation. You have to take me with you. I'm a man. They wouldn't dare try anything with me around." My mother-in-law still seemed hesitant, so my husband Leo chimed in. "Why not just go and check it out? If you're worried, take me with you. The company's having layoffs anyway, so it's not like I have much going on at work." It was true, he hadn't accomplished much at his company in all his years there. He was frustrated with his career and naturally wouldn't pass up an opportunity like this. He continued, "You'll have two grown men protecting you. What are you afraid of? Besides, you've lived a long life, haven't you? You've lived enough. Why not take a gamble? If we win, our lives will be so much better." Martha was silent for a long time before saying, "Well, I guess I'll go ask her again tomorrow. The flight to Myanmar isn't for another week, so there should be time." The next day, she went with my father-in-law to meet the old woman. To make sure I didn't miss anything, I secretly followed them. Sure enough, the old lady was still at the entrance of the health supplement store. When she saw my mother-in-law, she warmly linked arms with her and asked, "You're here? Have you thought about what I told you yesterday?" My mother-in-law uncomfortably pulled her hand away, led her to the side, and asked in a low voice, "Are you sure this is legit?" The old woman scoffed. "Of course, why wouldn't you believe me?" As she spoke, she mysteriously pulled a bracelet out of her bag and showed it to my mother-in-law. "Don't say I never share the good stuff with you. I had this bracelet made for my daughter. Look at the quality." As she spoke, she slipped it onto my mother-in-law's wrist. It was strange. The bracelet slid onto her wrist in a second, as if by magic. It fit her wrist perfectly, as if it would have required immense force to put on. Martha was entranced, staring at the bracelet, which seemed to emit a faint, alluring glow. The old lady laughed heartily. "I'm just letting you try it on. See how it's meant for you? Other people couldn't even get it on if they wanted to." My mother-in-law raised her hand to examine it more closely, but the old lady pressed her hand down. "Don't get too attached now. This bracelet is for my daughter. I can let you wear it for 5 minutes tops. But if you don't believe me, you can use this time to go buy a scratch-off." She pointed to a lottery shop across the street. "If you win, you'll believe me then, right?" Then she added a warning. "Don't you dare run off with the bracelet. I'm only letting you try it on because I trust you." I know. My father-in-law standing by was getting impatient. The old lady's apparent nervousness made my mother-in-law believe her a little more. As if in a trance, she stared at the bracelet while my father-in-law dragged her across the street. Frank went to the counter and slapped down a bill. "Give me one $10 scratcher." The clerk randomly pulled one out for him. He took it and eagerly started scratching. And just like that, he won $50. My father-in-law's eyes lit up. He didn't take the $50. Instead, he told the clerk, "Give me 5 more." The clerk handed him 5 more tickets. This time, he won $2,000. "We're rich! We're freaking rich!" My father-in-law clenched his fists and shouted with excitement. Just then, the old lady came running over. She urged, "How did it go? You must have won something, right? Can I have the bracelet back now? My daughter will be here any minute, and she'll be upset if she sees someone else has worn it. And the bracelet has a spirit. If you wear it for too long, it might recognize you as its owner, and that would be bad." My father-in-law was already high on the win. Annoyed by her nagging, he yanked the bracelet off my mother-in-law's wrist and handed it to her. Then he pulled her into a corner and whispered, "This Myanmar trip you mentioned, how do we get there? Can 3 people go?" The old lady said, "You can, but you'll have to pay for your own plane tickets and accommodation. If you want to save money, you can sleep on the floor." "Of course, no problem." My father-in-law nodded repeatedly. The $2,000 he had just won was more than enough for round-trip tickets. "Then it's settled." The old lady gave them a few more instructions and left with a smile. On the appointed day at the crack of dawn, my husband Leo left with his parents. After they arrived, he started a live stream for me. The old lady, speaking the local language with a slight accent, expertly guided them onto a bus. When they arrived at their destination, she led them down a narrow alley filled with jade sellers, their stalls and shops lining the way. They walked to the very end and stopped in front of a small shop. As the camera panned, I saw the scene inside. The front of the shop was filled with stones of all shapes and sizes. Some were finished products, while others were half-cut stones, and among them were some of impressive quality. My mother-in-law couldn't resist reaching out to touch one, but the old lady slapped her hand away. "Don't touch anything here. These are all priceless treasures. Many haven't been picked up by clients yet and are displayed to attract customers. Others have just been cut and are waiting for the right bidder." My father-in-law also scolded her. "You're so clumsy. If you break something, we can't afford to pay for it." Martha sheepishly pulled her hand back. The old lady knocked on the shop door and a dark-skinned foreigner quickly emerged. He exchanged a few words with the old lady in the local language. I used a translation app and got the gist. "These are repeat customers. Help them pick a good one." The man looked my mother-in-law over and smiled. He brought out a heavy box from the back room, and when he opened it, my mother-in-law's eyes went wide. "This is gorgeous. I've never seen anything so beautiful back home." The stones seemed to have a magical pull. My mother-in-law couldn't take her eyes off them. She quickly chose one and eagerly tried it on. The local man said a few more words, which the old lady translated. "You have excellent taste. This one is very high quality, but it's a bit expensive. It's about $40,000. "That expensive?" My mother-in-law was so shocked she was about to take it off, but the old lady stopped her. "Since it's your first time, I'll give you a 20% discount. That's $32,000. "That's still too expensive," my father-in-law mumbled, reluctantly caressing the bracelet. "So how much money did you bring with you?" the old lady asked. My father-in-law and Leo exchanged a look. "We only brought $30,000 in total, and we still need money for food and lodging for the next few days. Besides, I was planning on buying a bracelet for each of us, but now we can't afford it." The old lady thought for a moment. "How about this? I can sell you this bracelet for $25,000, but you have to cut a stone right here, right now." She pointed to a pile of unremarkable stones on the ground. "Different stones, different prices. Pick whichever you want, cut it on the spot, and you might even make a profit." My father-in-law glanced at my mother-in-law, then hesitantly pointed to the most inconspicuous little stone in the corner and asked, "How much for this one?" The old lady laughed heartily. "If you want it, I'll give it to you for $3,000. "That's way too much," my father-in-law gasped. "You can find stones like this on the side of the road anywhere. You're just ripping us off." But my mother-in-law, for once, glared at him, then pointed to a much larger stone on the other side and asked the old lady, "What about this one?" "That one. If you want it, it'll be $10,000. Before my mother-in-law could speak, my father-in-law started yelling, "You old hag, are you crazy? We came here to buy a bracelet. Buying a stone was just to get a discount. If you buy another huge stone like that, we'll lose a ton of money." But my mother-in-law, as if possessed, ignored him and said directly, "We'll take it." She paid for it before he could stop her. My father-in-law's face turned ashen. "It's over. It's over." The stone did look unremarkable. It was gray and dusty, with one corner already cut off, just tossed aside in a corner. It didn't look like it could possibly contain anything of value. "You're sure about this one?" the man cutting the stone, who was Chinese, asked. After getting my mother-in-law's confirmation, he placed the stone on the cutting machine. As the saw blade slowly descended, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, fixated on the stone. Just as the blade hit the bottom, a gasp erupted from the crowd. "Holy crap, that's imperial green!" My father-in-law was stunned. The crowd started murmuring. "Wow, incredible. He strikes gold on his first try. Look at the quality of that jade. They've hit the jackpot. Are these two some kind of experts? Look at the bracelet the old lady is wearing. Shh, don't say anything." My in-laws' lips trembled as they stared at each other. "What does that mean? What's imperial green?" The old lady smiled. "Let me put it this way. That one stone of yours can easily fetch 7 figures. My father-in-law was dumbfounded. He stood there frozen. "It's that amazing? A worthless-looking rock is worth 7 figures? More and more people gathered around, whispering among themselves. Just then, A man pushed through the crowd and asked my father-in-law, "I'll give you 1 million for that stone. Are you selling?" Before my father-in-law could answer, another person shouted, "I'll give you 1.2 million." My father-in-law was so shocked he couldn't speak, his mouth hanging open wide enough to swallow an egg. Leo, however, was very calm. He scanned the crowd and asked, "Any other offers? If the price is right, we'll sell it today." His words sparked a bidding war. "I'll offer 1.3 million. I'll give you 1.5 million. 1.6 million. Don't you dare try to outbid me." "Wait," my mother-in-law suddenly said. "I want to cut this jade in half. I want to make a piece of jewelry for my son, my daughter, and my husband. We can sell what's left." With half the jade gone, the price naturally couldn't be what was just offered. In the end, the remaining piece of stone was sold for $500,000. It would take 2 or 3 days to make the jade jewelry. My in-laws, now rich, checked out of their old hotel and booked a 3-day, 2-night stay in the most bustling part of the city. After a few days of living it up, they went back to the alley on their last day. The old lady was there to guide them again. The man in the stall handed my mother-in-law several boxes containing the jade jewelry. Leo opened them before she could, and my mother-in-law's eyes were glued to them. "They're so beautiful. I've never seen such high-quality jade in the malls back home." She was eager to put one on my father-in-law, but the old lady stopped her. "Wait, there's one last step." My in-laws were confused. They watched as the old lady pricked her finger and squeezed a drop of blood onto each of the jade pieces. She then gestured for my father-in-law and the others to do the same, to drip their own blood onto their respective pieces of jewelry. The moment the blood touched the jade, the stones emitted a strange light that quickly vanished. My father-in-law thought he was seeing things and rubbed his eyes. The old lady explained, "This is to claim ownership. All jade has a spirit. Only when it recognizes its owner will it serve you." As for my sister-in-law, Chloe, who wasn't there, she repeatedly instructed them to have Chloe drip her blood on it when they got back. Otherwise, the spiritual power would be insufficient and it could backfire, she warned. She also told them that the spiritual power of a pendant was weaker than that of a bracelet. So if they had something very important to do, the person wearing the bracelet had to be involved. With the pendants and bracelet in hand, the family's vacation was almost over, and the group headed to the airport. But when they were checking in, the staff informed them that they could get a free upgrade to business class for their flight. My in-laws were so excited they nearly hugged each other. But before takeoff, the plane suddenly had a mechanical issue and had to be delayed for a day. They were escorted off the plane and put up in a 5-star hotel. My in-laws had never stayed in such a luxurious hotel. After a day of feasting and taking everything they could, they finally boarded the plane. But Leo was getting anxious. He had only taken 3 days off. Returning late meant he would be called in for a talk. His name was already on the layoff list. If he got fired for being absent without leave, he'd be in deep trouble. Sure enough, the moment he arrived at the office on Friday, he was summoned by HR. Before going up, he had a good idea it was about the layoffs, so he secretly started recording on his phone. From my end of the phone, I saw the HR person greet him and then pull out a contract. Seeing the contract, Leo exploded. "I'm not signing that. I've worked here for over a decade. I may not have any great achievements, but I've put in the hard work. If the severance package isn't good enough, I'll go straight to the Department of Labor." The HR person looked confused. "Department of Labor? What are you so worked up about?" She flipped the contract to a specific page and pointed to a clause. "The leadership team has seen that you haven't made much progress over the years, and they want to give you a chance. You've heard about the Hayes Corporation project, right? The company wants you to give it a shot. If you can land it, your bonus will be no less than this much." She held up 10 fingers. "They're a leading company in the industry, so we're promoting you to sales manager, and your base salary will increase to $20,000 a month starting this month." Leo was stunned. He immediately looked at the contract terms and saw it was all clearly written out. A 3% commission for handling the Hayes Corporation project. He had always been invisible at the company, disliked by his boss, and having alienated many colleagues. That's why he had never been assigned a project to manage in all these years. He asked HR with a trembling voice, "So what's the total value of the project?" The person replied, "At least 300 million. With a thud, his legs gave out and he collapsed onto the chair. After struggling to get up, he signed the contract without a moment's hesitation. After my sister-in-law Chloe put on her jade pendant, she got into a car accident. While exchanging contact information for repairs, she met a guy who turned out to be a trust fund kid. They quickly fell in love. My in-laws weren't sitting idle either. After paying off the old gambling debts, they started playing the lottery. The first time, they won $2,000. From then on, their luck just kept getting better, and their bets got bigger. They put in $5,000 and won $20,000. They put in $20,000 and won $100,000. They invested that $100,000 and won $5 million in one go. By the time they had made $10 million, Leo suddenly decided to start his own company. The negotiation materials for the Hayes Corporation were already prepared, and he was confident he would land the project. His new company could then use this major project for publicity. My in-laws also used the $10 million from their winnings to buy Chloe a huge luxury condo. On the day they signed the contract for the condo, the sales office held a raffle. Chloe, wearing her jade bracelet, casually drew a ticket and won a brand new Tesla. My father-in-law took the remaining money and went back to the casino. He planned to work hard, make more money, and buy another huge condo nearby so we could all move in together. Leo started working early and coming home late for the project. His boss called him in for another talk, saying they were impressed by his hard work and dedication. To give him more authority when negotiating the project, they promoted him to sales director, and his base salary also went from $20,000 to $30,000 a month. The family's luck was on fire. Everything was going almost too smoothly. Sometimes my mother-in-law would be at home and pinch her own thigh, saying it all felt like a dream. They had won another $5 million in the lottery last night. Money was flowing to them like water. They couldn't spend it fast enough. My father-in-law also won $2 million at the casino yesterday, and the casino manager even bowed and scraped when he saw him. It was then that my father-in-law suggested, should we treat Susan and her family to a meal? Susan was my mother-in-law's sister, Leo's aunt. My mother-in-law immediately understood what he meant and slapped her thigh. Yes, we have to. Let them see how well we're doing. They'll be kicking themselves. My father-in-law spat and said bitterly, back then, I only owed $100,000 in gambling debts and those guys were threatening to chop off my fingers. But they just stood by and did nothing. I got fired because of it, and I still can't face my old colleagues. Exactly, Martha agreed. They always said they had no money, but didn't they just make a down payment on a house not too long ago? Right, but their house in the suburbs can't compare to our huge condo in the city, Frank sneered. It's small and far, and they have a mortgage. If they knew we bought our place in cash, they'd come crawling back for sure. They quickly set a date. On Saturday at noon, my aunt's family arrived. The two families hadn't seen each other in a long time, and the one-upmanship began the moment they walked in the door. My Aunt Susan said, our son has already settled the dowry with his fiancée, $88,000. They're getting engaged next month. She's already pregnant. What about your Leo? He's been married for so long. Any news yet? My mother-in-law's face fell for a second. Then she asked, feigning ignorance, so where did you buy the house for the wedding? At the Imperial Gardens. $30,000 per square meter, and it's in a good school district, my aunt said with considerable pride. Is that so? My mother-in-law snorted contemptuously and casually dangled her keys. I just bought Chloe a condo at Lakeside Estates, paid in full. It even came with a car. The smile froze on my aunt's face. Her gaze suddenly fixed on my mother-in-law's wrist, and her expression changed to one of shock. Did you win your money because of that jade bracelet? My mother-in-law frowned and instinctively covered the bracelet with her other hand. What nonsense are you talking about? We earned this money ourselves. Didn't you know Leo got a promotion recently? He's making $30,000 a month now. Impossible, my aunt retorted. Even if he made $100,000 a month, he couldn't afford a house in Lakeside Estates. Sis, tell me the truth. Did the money come from the bracelet? I don't know what you're talking about. I also won the lottery recently, won quite a bit, my mother-in-law stammered. You fool! My aunt's voice suddenly rose. In our last life, our whole family was destroyed by that bracelet. The more glamorous your life is now, the more miserable it will be later. That bracelet is draining all the luck you have for this lifetime. She stared intently at my mother-in-law. Did you buy that bracelet in Myanmar? Was it an old woman who told you to go? Her intense gaze completely unnerved my mother-in-law. She shot a desperate, pleading look at my father-in-law. Frank quickly interjected, Susan, are you dreaming or something? What's with all this superstitious talk? Don't try to hide it from us anymore, my uncle said at this point. You need to take that bracelet off right now. We really have been reborn. Because of it, we had a terrible time last life, and in the end, we all died. When you got the bracelet, did you have to drip blood on it? My father-in-law felt a chill run down his spine, but he remained stubborn. What are you rambling about? You're just jealous that we're doing well. You're talking all this superstitious nonsense, blaming it on the bracelet. Let me tell you, it's our family's time to shine. It's our turn to get rich, and we don't need you telling us what to do. My aunt grew anxious. Then try it. See if you can take that bracelet off. But my mother-in-law hid her hand behind her back as if guarding a treasure. Why would I take it off? This was custom made for me. It fits perfectly. You just can't stand to see me doing well, can you? You want me to take it off so you can snatch it and wear it yourself, right? The more she spoke, the angrier she got, finally grabbing her bag. Forget this meal. I'm too angry to eat anyway. You can have this table of food. Old man, let's go. With that, she stormed out. Leo, though a bit confused, followed them. In an instant, only my aunt's family and I were left in the room. My aunt grabbed me and pleaded, Honey, you have to convince your mother-in-law. Don't be tempted by these short-term gains. This bracelet will kill people. I usually just bicker with your mother-in-law, but if it's a matter of life and death, I can't just stand by. I nodded repeatedly and then made an excuse to leave. By the time I rushed home, all four of them were already there. My mother-in-law was muttering in the living room, Do you think what Susan said is true? How else would she know everything in such detail? My father-in-law was dismissive. I think she's just jealous of our success. She sees you have this new bracelet and it obviously looks expensive, so she's making up excuses to get you to smash it. Can't you see through such a simple trick? Chloe, however, was more timid. She glanced nervously at her bracelet and said, Maybe we should take it off. We have been unusually lucky lately. As she spoke, she tried to pull the bracelet off, but something strange happened. The bracelet suddenly seemed to shrink, clamping onto her wrist like an iron ring. Even more terrifying, a thin black line appeared on the back of her hand. One end of the line was connected to the bracelet, and the other snaked up her arm to her shoulder, where it disappeared as if it had burrowed into her flesh. My mother-in-law was startled and instinctively tried to remove her own bracelet, but hers seemed to be perfectly molded to her hand, neither too big nor too small, and wouldn't budge at all. Everyone's face changed. Leo reached up and yanked at the jade pendant around his neck. The cord broke, but the pendant left a faint imprint on his chest, as if he had been wearing it for a very long time. Looking closely, the area within the shape was filled with fine black lines, as if something had already drilled into his skin and taken root. My father-in-law was also terrified and tried to pull his off, but his pendant was even stranger. It wouldn't come off at all. He grabbed a kitchen knife to cut the cord, but the cord was as strong as a steel wire. He then tried an electric saw, but after a minute, the cord was completely unscathed. My mother-in-law also took the saw, trying to remove the bracelet from her wrist, but it remained motionless. The bracelet was like a diamond, impervious to any attempts to cut it. The entire family was terrified. After a long silence, my father-in-law spoke up. At the end of the day, this jade has brought us good things. It's because it's unusual that our lives are so good now. This means it has accepted us as its owners. If we can't take it off, so be it. From now on, it's a part of our family. As long as it makes our lives better, it can stay with us forever. Leo's face was still a bit pale. Seeing his mother and sister so frightened, he forced himself to agree. We're people, and it's just an object. We can't let it harm us, can we? I think Dad is right. Aunt Susan is just jealous of us. If this thing was really a problem, she wouldn't have said anything. My mother-in-law was still too shocked to speak. Leo continued, I know you can't accept it right now, so just think of it as a piece of jewelry. A lucky piece of jewelry. The more he spoke, the more he seemed to convince himself. He put the jade pendant back around his neck. There's nothing to be afraid of. There are so many of us, we can't let it get the better of us. Besides, the benefits it has given us are real. I don't see anything to be afraid of. If you're scared, then you go find that old lady. I'm not going. After saying that, he went back to his work. My mother-in-law and Chloe exchanged a look, their thoughts unreadable. Leo started leaving early and coming home late, busy with the Hayes Corporation project. His luck really did seem to be getting better. The previous sales manager had struggled with a client that he couldn't win over, but on Leo's first visit to Hayes, he ran into the company's chairman in the parking lot. After a brief chat, they discovered they were from the same hometown, so the chairman gave him 5 minutes to pitch his project. Before he left, the chairman had the purchasing manager give him his contact information. Leo started acting strangely, too. He could still take his jade pendant off. Every day after work, he would take it off, wash it clean, and then place it in the living room, bowing and praying to it. After a while, I started to have hallucinations. I thought I saw a smiling face on the jade pendant. I'd rub my eyes and the face would be gone. It seemed to be just an ordinary piece of jade. But I knew this thing was far from simple. Someone at Leo's company quit, and Leo got Chloe a job there. During the interview, the HR manager and Chloe hit it off, and the offered salary and benefits were excellent. Weekends off, no overtime, 9 to 5, and $8,000 a month after taxes, plus a year-end bonus equivalent to 6 months' salary. When Leo visited the client's company again, he brought Chloe along. Every time before entering the meeting room, he would grab Chloe's wrist and kiss her jade bracelet over and over. Their project progressed smoothly, and the client had already agreed to let them provide samples. Meanwhile, the business license for Leo's new company was approved. The day before the project negotiations, Leo treated the client's team to dinner, and he brought Chloe with him. Chloe had dressed up for the occasion. Her tight black dress was form-fitting, her smooth back was partially exposed, and a good portion of her chest was on display, making the client's eyes pop. I had booked the private room, so I had planted a hidden camera inside early on. I watched as the client's purchasing manager spoke. The samples have passed the tests. No issues there. Now it's a matter of the partnership. Chloe looked up at the right moment, the bracelet on her wrist glowing faintly, making her face look even more delicate. The two men across from her couldn't take their eyes off her. The purchasing manager cleared his throat and said, "We've considered your proposal to run the project through your new company. It's not impossible, but what guarantee do we have?" As he spoke, his eyes kept darting towards Chloe. The man next to him was even more blatant, staring directly at her. His gaze was so intense that Chloe uncomfortably pulled her dress up a little higher. Leo said, "I won't ask for a deposit. I'm the sales director of my company. You can probably guess my character by the fact that I've climbed to this position. Tomorrow, when the project outcome is announced, I'll resign and take over at my new company. I'm telling you right now, as long as I'm at the company, your order will not have any problems." The purchasing director just stared at him, neither shaking his head nor nodding. Instead, he waved his hand. "That's still no guarantee. I don't know anyone at your new company. If the order can't be fulfilled and the delivery date arrives and I can't get the goods and you've disappeared, who do I go to?" As he spoke, his eyes kept glancing at Chloe's chest. This was exactly what Leo wanted. Leo smiled and pushed Chloe into the middle of the group. "I brought my assistant with me today, didn't I? She'll be joining me at the new company. She'll be overseeing your order from start to finish." He looked at Chloe. "We're strangers now, but we'll get to know each other over time. The project results will be announced tomorrow. If you have any requests tonight or any complaints about the company, just tell my assistant. If she can help, she'll do her best to satisfy you." He looked at Chloe again. "Chloe, pour a drink for these gentlemen. We're all from the same hometown. Once we get to know each other, we'll be like family." Chloe got the hint, smiled sweetly, poured the drinks, and cooed as she made a toast. The man in charge finally smiled. "Since you put it that way, it would be rude of me not to drink this." He downed it in one go. Leo gave Chloe a look, and she immediately refilled the glass and clinked it with his. The men took turns drinking with Chloe, and she quickly passed out. At that moment, Leo slipped a hotel key card into the man's pocket. "A hotel opened by a relative of mine. I guarantee no cameras and no records. You guys have fun. You have all night. I'll come pick her up in the morning. The car Leo had arranged was already waiting outside the hotel. After the men got in, Leo helped Chloe into the car and pushed her into their arms. Then he shut the door. The car sped away. The next day, Chloe came back in tears. By then, Leo had already secured the project. When I got home, I heard him on the phone, arranging for the order to be billed to a different company. Just then, Chloe ran back crying. She was a mess. Her hair was a bird's nest on her head. She was still wearing a hotel bathrobe. Her neck and chest were covered in bruises, and her face had several scrapes. When she saw Leo, she slapped him across the face. "You bastard! You said I just had to drink with them. You said you only needed me there for my jade bracelet. Why did I wake up in a hotel? Did you drug me? Why don't I remember anything, huh?" She was trembling with rage, her eyes fixed on Leo. He glanced at me, then covered her mouth, dragged her into a room, and shut the door. I quickly pressed my ear to it. I heard Leo comforting her. "Their eyes were all over you. Shouldn't you have been eager to please them? Besides, now that we've landed this deal, we can start our own company." Chloe was still crying. "So what if we start a company? I've lost my innocence. I have a boyfriend now. What if he finds out?" Leo didn't answer her. Instead, he said, "I have good news for you. To motivate the other sales reps, the company has already given me the commission for this deal. Because it's a huge order, they multiplied the bonus by a factor of 30%. Just from this one deal, I'm going to get this much." He made a gesture with his hands. Tina gasped. 1.2 million? No, 12 million. Tina stopped crying. Leo took out his phone and showed her. "I didn't take a deposit from the client for this project, but we need a deposit for the raw materials. This 12 million will be the startup capital for my new company. Once I resign and transfer the order, the client's final payment should be coming in soon. Then I'll return the 12 million bonus to the company. I basically got a free ride." Chloe murmured, "That doesn't sound right. What if someone finds out?" "So what? I'm on a lucky streak right now." He took a pile of gifts out of his bag and gave them to Chloe. "Your brother didn't forget about you. All this Hermes and Chanel, all the stuff you could never afford before. I bought you the best of the best. You can give the accessories to your friends. It'll make you look good." Chloe was still sniffling. "But they looked like pros. What if I caught something? I'm supposed to get married to my boyfriend." "If you don't say anything and they don't say anything, who's going to know?" Leo whispered. "This kind of thing is normal in business, and it's not like it's your first time. You got all this for one night. It's a good deal. Once the new company is stable, I'll give you a 10% commission on future projects. You won't have been taken advantage of for nothing." Just then, my in-laws, who had just walked in, overheard words like "one night" and "taken advantage of." They immediately pushed me aside and rushed into the room. But the next second, they were stunned speechless by the room full of luxury goods. When Leo saw them come in, he didn't panic. He immediately handed the vintage scotch and Rolex behind him to his father. He also gave the Hermes scarf and bag to his mother. "Dad, Mom, don't get excited. We landed the project. The commission is 12 million. I just told Chloe once the company is up and running, I'll make her the sales director and give her a 10% cut." My father-in-law, who had been angry, immediately calmed down at the sight of all the nice things. He grinned from ear to ear, lovingly clutching the items. "Our lives are just getting better and better. If I show this off to old Lee and the guys, they'll die of jealousy." My mother-in-law, however, was not happy. She glared at her husband. "Didn't you hear? Your daughter was taken advantage of. Aren't you going to do something about it?" But my father-in-law waved his hand dismissively. "Do what? They just don't like my type. If they did for 12 million, I'd serve them myself." At this point, my father-in-law glanced outside shiftily. Making sure I wasn't at the door, he closed it and lowered his voice. "We're making too much money now. Your wife doesn't have kids, and she still eats our food and lives off us. It doesn't sit right with me." At the mention of me, my mother-in-law also became displeased. "I've been wanting to say this for a while. Back when we were poor, I accepted her. Now that we're well off, you should kick her out. I can't stand the sight of her. Leo muttered a low, hmm. Let's wait a bit. The company needs people right now in the startup phase. Once the company is stable, I'll kick her out and find a younger woman to give you a big, healthy grandson. Yes, yes, my in-laws beamed, unable to contain their joy. I looked up at the jade pendant Leo had hung in the living room. At that moment, it seemed to have transformed back into a sinister, smiling face. Chloe rested for a few days and then went to work. When she was leaving, she called to say she wouldn't be home for dinner. But an hour later, we got a call from the hospital. Something had happened to Chloe. When we rushed to the hospital, Chloe was still in surgery. According to the person who called it in, Chloe was driving when, for some reason, she got distracted and her car suddenly broke through the guardrail and flew off the road. There were no obstacles on the sidewalk, but her car mysteriously rolled over twice on the ground and then caught fire. Her boyfriend had noticed something was wrong early on and jumped out of the car, but Chloe was seriously injured. Just then, the light above the operating room went out. A doctor came out and told my mother-in-law, Chloe's life has been saved. She has multiple fractures, but she should recover after a period of rest. However, because the car was smashed against the wall and then caught fire, her face was injured. The scar will be very difficult to get rid of. My mother-in-law's eyes rolled back and she almost fainted. Leo caught her just in time. He asked the doctor, "What about her boyfriend? Where is he now?" The doctor shook his head. "She was brought in by ambulance. No one else was with her. You should go pay the fees first." Leo gritted his teeth. That animal, how could he leave Chloe at the hospital alone? What a scumbag. My mother-in-law was heartbroken. She covered her mouth to keep from sobbing, but her shoulders shook uncontrollably. She cried so hard she almost passed out. Fortunately, Chloe woke up the next day. She almost immediately felt the gauze on her face and grabbed her phone to look. The next second, she screamed, "What happened to my face? Why does it hurt so much? Will it leave a scar?" She began to tremble violently. My mother-in-law's heart ached and she started to cry. She rushed over and hugged Chloe. "Don't cry. Don't cry. Your face will get better. I'll have the doctor prescribe the best ointment. It will definitely heal slowly." Chloe screamed like a madwoman. "How long is slowly? 10 years? 20 years? A lifetime? What about my wedding next year? Will my boyfriend still marry me?" "It's okay, it's okay. If it doesn't get better, Mom will take you to a plastic surgeon. We have money and good luck now. You'll be fine." Hearing this, Chloe suddenly laughed. She seemed possessed as she reached for her wrist. Upon touching the jade bracelet, she visibly relaxed and a strange smile appeared on her face. "That's right. I have good luck now. I will get better. The bracelet will protect me." Just then, she got a video call. Seeing it was her rich boyfriend, she quickly wiped away her tears, composed her smile, and answered. But the next second, her boyfriend's cold voice came through. "We're breaking up. You're so damn unlucky you even managed to flip your car. Good thing I got out quick or I would have been the one in trouble." Chloe panicked. "Honey, why would you think that? I'm your lucky star. I saved you from disaster. Shouldn't you be thanking me?" Her boyfriend looked at her with disgust. "Stop pretending. My family owns this hospital. The doctor said your face won't heal. Let's just break up. I can't be seen with that ruined face of yours. It's too embarrassing." Chloe's eyes widened, filling with tears. Before she could say anything else, her boyfriend hung up. My mother-in-law gritted her teeth. "That little bastard is so cruel. You saved him, and this is how he repays you. Call him back and give him a piece of your mind." But Chloe didn't say a word. She stared blankly at the bracelet and mumbled, "Do you think this bracelet is really like what Aunt Susan said? That it has a backlash?" My mother-in-law spat. "Backlash? It's a good thing he dumped you. Our family is rich now, and we're only going to get richer. Once your brother's company takes off, you think you'll have trouble finding a good man? He won't even be good enough for you then." She snorted. "Breaking up now is actually a good thing. This bracelet is helping you. It saves us the trouble of getting rid of him later." Chloe's eyes filled with tears again. She didn't seem to believe her mother. After my mother-in-law left, she called me and asked me to go with her to the fire department. On the way, she kept muttering, I feel like there's something wrong with this bracelet. I have to smash it. Besides, I've already gotten enough from it. I don't need it anymore. Once my brother's company is stable, I can just rely on him. The more she spoke, the more determined she became. When they got to the fire department, a staff member suggested, "This bracelet is of very high quality. Why don't you try using more hand cream or soap to pull it off? It would be a shame to destroy it." "It's useless. I've tried everything," Chloe insisted. "It's like this bracelet is cursed. I can't get it off no matter what I do." The firefighter, skeptical, took out his tools and started sawing, but the bracelet didn't move an inch. He then took out a hammer, but after hammering away for a long time, he couldn't even make a dent. Chloe grew even more panicked. "This bracelet can't stay. It's evil. It's here to harm me." The firefighter looked at her as if she were crazy, then tried every tool he had. But nothing worked. The bracelet was like it was welded to her hand. They were out of options. "We've never seen a situation like this before. Why don't you go home for now? We'll contact you when we figure something out." Chloe had no choice but to go back, dejected. But when she walked in the door, she saw her mother had cheerfully cooked a feast to celebrate her breakup. The smell of the food wafted over, and she instinctively gagged. My mother-in-law looked over with a puzzled expression, only to see Chloe gagging again uncontrollably. She covered her mouth and rushed to the bathroom. Chloe was pregnant. My mother-in-law's face changed. She asked Leo, "Your sister didn't do something she shouldn't have with that little brat, did she?" Leo's face darkened as if remembering that night. He said to me, "Where are your pregnancy tests? Get one for Chloe." The result came back. Chloe was pregnant. She tearfully called the rich kid, but he just started screaming at her. "Are you disgusting or what? You're pregnant with my kid? You know damn well whose kid it is. The video of you sleeping with other guys has already been sent to me. And there were 3 of them. I was being nice by giving you a decent reason for breaking up, and now you're trying to use a pregnancy to trap me." Chloe's face went white. "What do you mean? What video? Where did it come from?" The rich kid sneered. "Your brother got the project. You know that, right? A lot of people aren't happy about it, so they're keeping a close eye on him. This thing about you has already spread throughout the industry. Your family is probably the only one who doesn't know." Chloe's world collapsed. She begged frantically, "Honey, don't believe them. They must have faked it. They're just jealous my brother got the big project and want to hurt me." The rich kid almost laughed in anger. "I don't give a damn if it's real or fake. Everyone is laughing at me for being a cuckold. Get the hell out of my life and don't ever contact me again." With a click, he hung up. Tears streamed down Chloe's face. She cried and grabbed my arm. "Sis, what do I do? Does this mean I can't marry into a rich family?" But my mother-in-law curled her lip in disdain. "I wouldn't let you marry him anyway. What's so great about a rich family? We're a rich family ourselves now. Why are you so hung up on him? Are there no other men in the world? You're so pathetic I could just slap you." Chloe was still crying when her phone rang again. Thinking it was the rich kid, she answered without looking. But it was Leo's voice on the other end. "Chloe, where are you? There's trouble at the company." Chloe's voice trembled. "Oh, what's wrong? What happened?" I heard Leo say, "The project went south. There was a fatal accident on the first day of construction. The site's been shut down." "What?" Chloe almost dropped her phone. Leo lowered his voice. "The authorities are investigating now. I gave you $6 million before. You need to find a way to withdraw it so they can't trace it. Otherwise, our future is ruined." Chloe forgot about crying and rushed to the bank. Unfortunately, large withdrawals required an appointment, and the earliest she could get the money was in 2 days. She had no choice but to book the earliest possible time. But the next day, Leo's bank account was frozen. Because of the accident, the project couldn't start on time. The client company demanded a 30% penalty for breach of contract, which amounted to nearly $100 million. Leo went to his own company for help, but the management just looked at him like he was a clown and said, frankly, "You think we didn't know you were registering a new company? We were monitoring your every move. But thanks for setting up that company. You can take the fall for this one." They produced evidence of Leo's attempt to transfer the order, and without paying a dime in compensation, they fired him after making him return the bonus. But the client company was relentless. It didn't matter which company Leo was with, they were coming after him personally. A lawyer's letter had already arrived at the house. My in-laws had no choice but to use all their lottery winnings to help pay, but it was far from enough. The client company demanded that Leo pay back 90 million or to face prison. His good life had just begun. He wasn't about to go to jail. He had to go back and beg his old company, but they turned him away again. You have to handle this yourself. Otherwise, I'll expose everything you did, colluding with the client and sending your sister to their bed. You think if this gets out, those clients will still have their careers? Don't you think they'll hate you? They know where you live. Do you think your wife and sister will have a chance to live? Leo was dumbfounded. He went to buy lottery tickets again, hoping for a miracle. But when the numbers were drawn, he hadn't won a thing. Chloe was also going crazy. The morning sickness combined with the stress made her break out in cold sweats. Suddenly, she remembered she was pregnant. She went straight to the Hayes Corporation. She waited in the basement for 2 days and finally saw the three men. She darted out from a corner, knelt before them, and tearfully told them she was pregnant with one of their children. She begged them, for the sake of the child, to drop the compensation claim. But the three men just laughed. What proof do you have that we slept with you? Besides, I lose tens of millions for one night with you. You're quite the businesswoman. And if I remember correctly, your brother got a hefty bonus, right? We're even. If you come looking for me again, I'll sue you for defamation. One of them, who looked the oldest, suddenly relented. Forget it, we'll give you a discount, pay 60 million. After all, we're from the same hometown, but if you dare to spread rumors outside, I can't guarantee we won't add the money back on. After all, the contract is in your brother's name. Tears streamed down Chloe's face as she nodded repeatedly. She didn't dare make a scene anymore. My father-in-law and mother-in-law finally sold all their properties. Pooling everything together, they managed to pay off most of the penalty. At this point, my mother-in-law gave Chloe an idea. Our family is already in this state. Why don't you just have the baby? If it's the rich kids, take the child and raise hell at his house. I don't believe a big corporation like that doesn't care about its reputation. If it's one of those three men's, that's fine too. No matter which one it is, you marry him. I don't care if he has a family or not, as long as you have a good life. In her second trimester, Chloe went for a 4D ultrasound. It showed that the fetus had abnormalities. The doctor advised her to terminate the pregnancy immediately. If you do it now, it will be less painful than in the third trimester. If you give birth, the child will be a burden for life. But Chloe gritted her teeth and insisted, I can't abort this child. I need him to marry into a rich family. The doctor gave Chloe a complicated look but didn't try to persuade her further. By this time, the family home was sold. Leo's reputation was ruined and he couldn't find a job. My in-laws had no pension. My father-in-law's recent winning streak had gotten him hooked on gambling again. He spent his days at the casino and was now drowning in debt. In the month before her due date, Chloe, not giving up, got a hammer and sulfuric acid. She was still determined to get the bracelet off and had specifically found the sharpest hammer. It's this damn bracelet. If I keep it, it will torment me endlessly. Even if my son was born healthy, it would have turned him into a monster. I have to smash it. She gritted her teeth and swung the hammer down. The collision of metal and jade made a loud clang. The impact numbed her arm, but the bracelet lay quietly on her wrist, its clear, translucent color glowing faintly green under the light, like a shackle or a death warrant. Chloe broke down. She pointed at her mother, screaming uncontrollably, It's all your fault. All of it. If it weren't for you, our family wouldn't have ended up like this. You're so cheap, you fell for it, and you've ruined our whole family. When her mother heard this, tears streamed down her face. She slapped her own face again and again, wailing, I've sinned. I've truly sinned. Heaven is my witness. I just wanted our family to do well. Who could have imagined it would turn out like this? And you all agreed for me to go back then. How can you blame me? Chloe's face was almost contorted with rage. She shrieked, her eyes bloodshot with hatred, staring at her mother. If you hadn't believed that nonsense, we never would have known this thing existed. It was you. You were the one who wanted to go, and you pretended to try and talk us out of it. You're a hypocrite. I've known you were a hypocrite since I was a kid. When Dad lost all that money gambling and wanted a divorce, why didn't you leave? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be in this mess." Her mother's face turned pale. Her initial remorse turned to disbelief and finally to an indescribable sadness. Her lips trembled. "I couldn't bear to leave you back then. Your father was in so much debt. If you had gone with him, what would have happened to you? And what about now? What has it become now?" Chloe looked up, her face a mess of tears and snot mixed with anger and malice. "In the end, you and Dad are both short-sighted and greedy. You never should have had us. With your defective genes, you should have just died childless." With a sharp smack, my mother-in-law, overwhelmed with anger, slapped her across the face. She stared at her eyes wide with disbelief, her finger trembling. "Chloe, you're a monster. You're a real monster. How could you say such a thing?" Chloe completely lost it. Her face twisted, she gritted her teeth, her chest heaving with rage. She was about to say more when she heard a dull thud. Her water broke. After a day and a night of screaming, Chloe gave birth to a child with deformities. Before she was even out of the postpartum period, she had someone deliver the baby to the rich ex-boyfriend's house. But their luck was just terrible. That day, the ex-boyfriend happened to bring his new girlfriend home. The two families were discussing their engagement when the sudden arrival of the baby scared them senseless. The woman's family was prominent, and after finding out the whole story, they immediately called off the engagement. The man's family was furious. They tried to win the girl's family back, but they wouldn't even meet with them, and rumors about their family's scandal spread throughout their social circle. The more they thought about it, the angrier they got. They arranged for two people to find an opportunity and beat Chloe to death, then staged it to look like she had fallen to her death. As for Chloe's son, he developed a high fever a few days later. The man's family refused treatment, and the baby died soon after. They gave the child a lavish funeral and had someone perform rites to ensure he would be reborn into a good family in his next life. When my in-laws learned what had happened, they cried so hard they nearly passed out. My mother-in-law started buying lottery tickets again. She poured all of the little money the family had left into it. Later, when that wasn't enough, she borrowed more. She believed that people have their lucky and unlucky streaks. If they could just get through this period, they would be fine. She ended up with a mountain of debt, including loans from loan sharks, but she didn't win a single cent. It was then that my father-in-law suggested that since they were already so deep in debt, they couldn't stay there any longer. He wanted to take Leo abroad to try their luck. The casinos there played for bigger stakes and the money came faster. And maybe in a new place, their luck would change. My mother-in-law immediately agreed. She had always believed that their lucky streak wasn't over, that when the time was right, they would be rich again. The next day, my father-in-law took Leo on a bus to the airport. A month later, my mother-in-law received a text message on her phone. It was a video of my husband and father-in-law, their hands and feet chopped off, turned into human stumps. The message said, "These two owe the casino an 8-figure debt. They checked their assets and found they couldn't pay it back, so this was the only way to make them stay at the casino." My mother-in-law fainted from shock. When she woke up the next day, she started looking for a piece of paper. On that paper was the address the old lady had given them. She had told my in-laws that if they wanted to buy more jade, they could just go to this place in Myanmar and mention her name. She had me buy her a plane ticket, and then she left. 2 days passed, and I heard nothing from her. On the third day, a news story went viral. An elderly Chinese woman, while riding a bus in Myanmar, suddenly stuck her head out the window to spit. A drunk driver in another bus lost control and swerved into her, decapitating her. On the entire bus, there was 1 death and 0 injuries. It was ruled a traffic accident. Not long after, people came to the house and gave me a large sum of compensation money. On top of that, after my husband had started making money, he had bought his parents several life insurance policies. All that money now belonged to me. Someone even came from abroad and gave me the luggage my mother-in-law had taken with her. I opened the luggage, and there, in plain sight, was the jade bracelet broken in 2. I don't know if it was broken in the crash or if it automatically detaches from its host upon their death. Seeing that the bracelet had lost its eerie glow, I breathed a sigh of relief and casually threw it away. I suddenly remembered something I had read somewhere. A person's luck in life is predetermined. The good fortune you gain by taking shortcuts is actually an advance on the luck of your next few decades. Once your good luck is used up ahead of time, all that's left for you is misfortune.